What would you do if two children stepped into your world, speaking a language no one has ever heard, wearing clothes no one has ever woven, and their skin was green? Not metaphorically, not symbolically, but literally green. This isn't a riddle. It isn't a myth. It's a real event recorded by two medieval historians, men who documented wars, plagues, kings, not fairy tales. And it began on an ordinary harvest afternoon in the village of Woolpit. Picture this: golden wheat, soft wind, farmers moving in rhythm, cutting through the season's final crop, until everything stops. Because at the edge of an old wolf pit, two children are standing completely still. A boy, a girl, clinging to each other as if the world around them is unbearably foreign. Their faces pale with fear. Their clothes made of a strange, unfamiliar fabric. Their voices whispering in a rapid, musical tongue no one recognizes. And their skin, that unmistakable shade of soft, vibrant green. For a long moment, the field is silent. The farmers stare. The children stare back. No one moves. It feels less like two children who wandered into the village and more like two children who stepped out of someplace else. A place they will later describe as a world of eternal twilight. A place where the sun never rises. A place where everyone, not just these two, is green. But the villagers don't know any of this yet. All they know is that these children are terrified, hungry, barely able to stand, and somehow utterly misplaced in reality. What happened next would be written into history as one of the strangest encounters in all of medieval England. A mystery so persistent that 9 centuries later, historians still argue about it. Folklorists still chase its meaning, and scientists still can't fully explain it. But the question that began in that wheat field is the same question we're left with today. Where did these children come from, and why did only one survive long enough to tell the truth? To find that answer, we have to turn to the men who dared to record this story and uncover what they knew, but couldn't explain. If a story this strange were told only by villagers, we could dismiss it. If it survived only as folklore, we could call it legend. But that is not what happened. Two of the most respected chroniclers of medieval England, men who documented kings, battles, plagues, stopped their histories to write about the green children of Woolpit. The first was William of Newburgh, a cautious, skeptical historian who openly criticized stories he thought were exaggerated. A man who valued accuracy over entertainment. And yet, even he admitted, something happened in Woolpit that he could not explain. The second was Ralph of Coggeshall, an abbot, a recorder of political events, a man surrounded by scholars and traveling monks who brought information from across Europe. He too wrote about the children. 2 independent historians. 2 separate manuscripts. 1 impossible event. And their descriptions converge in ways that make the mystery difficult to dismiss. They wrote that the children were discovered near the wolf pits, outside Woolpit village. They wrote that their skin was unmistakably green. They wrote that the children spoke a language unlike anything anyone had ever heard. But the strangest agreement is what happened next. The villagers brought the children to the home of Sir Richard de Calne, a local nobleman. They tried to feed them bread, vegetables, cooked meals, but the children refused everything until someone brought in fresh, raw broad beans, still in their green pods. The moment the children saw them, their behavior changed. They reach for the beans with a desperate hunger, as if recognizing the first familiar thing in this new, blinding world. Over the following weeks, their color began to fade. The girl grew stronger, but the boy's health declined. Both historians wrote the same conclusion. He died soon after baptism. But the girl survived. She learned English. She adapted. She lived long enough to speak of the place she came from. And that is where the two chroniclers quietly diverge. William wrote that the children heard church bells and followed the sound until they stepped into Woolpit. Ralph recorded that the children walked to a cavern, a tunnel that grew brighter and brighter until they emerged into daylight. Two origin stories, both impossible, both preserved by men who were not in the habit of preserving fantasies. And that discrepancy is not a flaw in the story. It is the first sign that the witnesses themselves didn't fully understand what they had seen. The children appeared suddenly. They spoke a language no one recognized. They ate only the food that matched the color of their skin. And when the girl finally learned enough English to describe her home, everything we thought we understood about this mystery collapsed. Because she didn't describe another country, or another culture, or anything that fits into the geography of medieval England. She described a world no map has ever shown. When the girl finally learned enough English to explain where she came from, no one in Woolpit was prepared for her answer. Because she didn't describe a country, or a neighboring village, or anything that fit within the geography of medieval England. She described a world she called St. Martin's Land, named after a figure her people worshipped, a protector draped in green. According to her, the land she knew best was nothing like the one she stood in now. There, the sun never shone. Not once. Not fully. Instead, the world existed in a kind of perpetual twilight, a dim, green-tinted glow that made everything feel half awake, half dreaming. The fields, the forests, even the air itself seemed suspended in a quiet, eternal dusk. Everyone who lived there, not just her and her brother, had skin like soft green leaves. It wasn't strange to them. It wasn't a condition. It was simply how life was. But the detail that unsettled people most was the river. A vast river flowing endlessly between her twilight land and another place, a place she described as blindingly bright. A place her people were forbidden to cross. They could see its light from their side of the river. They could see colors that didn't exist in their own world, but they could never step into it. Until one day, she and her brother did. She explained that they were tending their father's herd near the riverbank when they heard a strange sound, a clear, ringing vibration echoing through the air. Bells. Not the bells of her world. Something different, sharper, stronger. They followed the sound into what she described as a long passageway, a tunnel carved of stone that neither of them had ever seen before. Inside, the darkness deepened. The walls felt cold. The air thinned. But far ahead was light. A harsh light. A painful light. A light so bright, she had to shield her eyes with her hands as she stepped forward. And when she emerged from the tunnel, her brother trembling behind her, they were no longer in the world they knew. They were standing in a field of golden wheat, under a blinding sun, surrounded by people with skin the color of warm earth instead of green. She said it felt like stepping into another reality. A reality too bright, too loud, too alive. A reality that didn't want them there. But here's the part that historians struggle with the most. Her description mirrors ancient Celtic writings about the other world, a realm of twilight separated from ours by water, sound, and stone corridors. It's a pattern found in folklore across Europe. But this wasn't folklore. This was testimony. A child describing her home, as calmly as someone describing a faraway village. And so the question becomes, was she remembering an actual place or a boundary between worlds that most people never cross? Whatever the truth is, her story didn't end with the crossing. Because as she spoke, the villagers noticed something else. She wasn't just describing where she came from. She was describing a place that might still exist. When stories drift too close to the impossible, historians reach for something solid, something that pulls the mystery back to the ground. And for the green children of Woolpit, that explanation arrived almost 8 centuries later. A historian named Paul Harris proposed a theory meant to quiet the supernatural. A theory tidy enough, logical enough, to make everyone feel a little safer. He suggested that the children weren't from another world at all, but from a very real village called Fornham St. Martin, just a few miles away. According to him, the clues match. St. Martin's land could simply be the children mispronouncing the name of their home. The perpetual twilight they describe might have been the dense forests of East Anglia, where sunlight struggles to reach the ground. The river separating their world from the bright land might have been the River Lark. Their language, unfamiliar to Woolpit farmers, might have been Flemish, spoken by immigrant weaving families. Their green skin chalked up to severe malnutrition, a condition called chlorosis. And the tunnel they described could have been nothing more than the disorienting darkness of a forest hollow or collapsed mine. It is a clean theory, comfortable, reassuring, but the more you hold it up to the light, the more the edges begin to crumble. Because if the children were Flemish, the monks at Bury St. Edmunds, men who regularly met travelers from across Europe, would have recognized the language instantly. They didn't. If the Twilight Land was just a dark forest, why did both children describe a world where the sun never shone? Not dim, not blocked by trees, absent. And if their skin was green from hunger, why did it remain vibrant for days after they began eating again, only fading slowly as their bodies acclimated to Woolpit? Then there's the tunnel. Harris suggested caves, mines, or underground passages. But the girl described a corridor that grew brighter the farther they walked, as if transitioning through a boundary, rather than a physical space. That detail aligns not with geography, but with mythology. In Celtic and Anglo-Saxon cosmology, passages between realms are not places of stone. They are thresholds. Sound, light, and disorientation are markers of crossing, not travel. And the most telling sign is one Harris never addressed. If the children simply wandered from a nearby village, why did 2 of the most meticulous historians of the 12th century record their arrival as a rupture in natural order? William of Newburgh mocked supernatural stories constantly. Ralph of Coggeshall was trained to separate miracle from fabrication. And yet, both preserved the events of Woolpit with a tone of unease, not dismissal, as if they sensed that the explanation went beyond their vocabulary. Maybe that's why the Flemish theory never fully stuck. It closes the door, but the room stays cold. Because even if the theory were true, even if the children were refugees, there are still too many threads that refuse to lie flat. Threads that point, not to a village across the fields, but to a world that brushes ours, only in rare, accidental moments. When you strip away the theories, when you push aside the explanations, meant to make this story feel safe, you're left with a handful of details that refuse to fit anywhere. Details so strange, so stubborn, that historians almost always gloss over them, as if hoping no one will look too closely. Let's start with the first one. Multiple witnesses describe the children's garments as being made from a material unlike any cloth woven in this land. Not Flemish, not English, not even foreign, just unfamiliar. The stitching, the fibers, the texture. Nothing matched the textiles of the 12th century. And here's the unsettling part. Neither William nor Ralph attempted to classify the cloth. These were men who documented armor, banners, relics, trade goods. They knew fabrics. But in this case, they simply recorded what was said and moved on, as if the truth was stranger than the vocabulary available to them. Eyewitnesses insisted the children spoke a language unrelated to any tongue of Christendom. That sentence alone is bizarre, because in medieval England, foreign languages were common. French, Flemish, Latin, Norse, Breton. Yet not a single monk, merchant, pilgrim, or scribe recognized even fragments. Not sounds, not roots, not rhythm. Languages leave traces, patterns, clues. But the children's speech left nothing, as if it belonged to no linguistic family we've ever mapped. Ralph wrote that the children entered Woolpit through a passageway that grew brighter as they walked forward. This doesn't behave like a cave, or a mine, or a forest hollow. It behaves like a boundary, a liminal space between two realities. In Celtic tradition, these crossings were described with eerie consistency, a narrowing, a disorientation, a rising brightness, a break in the air. Not distance, transition. And the children's description matches that template with uncomfortable precision. If malnutrition caused the green skin, it would vanish quickly as the children began eating. But the chronicles say the color faded slowly, gradually, as if the children were losing something, not recovering. The girl's transformation is recorded almost symbolically, from green to pale to the normal complexion of an English child, as though her very biology was rewriting itself to fit this world. And the boy, who did not adapt, withered and died. Ancient folklore across Europe warns of beings unable to survive outside their native realm. Half here, half elsewhere, unmoored between worlds. His death fits that pattern with chilling accuracy. Perhaps the strangest anomaly isn't what William and Ralph wrote, but what they didn't write. There is no record of the villagers searching for relatives. No attempt to return the girl to a place she might have recognized. No discussion of neighboring villages losing children. It's as if everyone sensed, quietly, instinctively, that the children had not come from anywhere on any map. And the chroniclers themselves refused to speculate. They documented, they described, but they never offered an origin. Not because they lacked imagination, but because they feared choosing the wrong answer. When you put these anomalies together, the unfamiliar cloth, the unplaceable language, the threshold tunnel, the fading color, the historical silence, they form a pattern. Not of refugees, not of travelers, but of intrusions. Moments when something from outside our reality briefly overlaps with it. Not permanently, Not comfortably, just long enough to leave behind questions we still can't answer. And maybe that's why the Woolpit story endures, because the anomalies aren't decoration. They are fingerprints, evidence of a world that touched ours for the smallest moment and then pulled back. For nearly 900 years, the story of the Green Children has stood at the center of a quiet argument. An argument between two worlds, two ways of thinking, two versions of truth. One version tries to calm us. The other tries to warn us. Let's begin with the comfortable one. Some people believe in a simpler answer, one that helps us sleep at night. In this view, nothing supernatural happened in Woolpit. The children were refugees, victims of war, famine, or displacement. Their strange language was simply a dialect no one recognized. Their green skin was malnutrition. Their story about another world was the confused memory of traumatized minds. It is logical. It is rational. It gives history a shape we know how to hold. And if you choose this version, the world remains familiar, predictable, safe. But then there is the other version, the one that does not let go so easily. Others believe something very different, something far less comforting. They believe the children didn't get lost. They crossed. In this interpretation, the children were not lost. They crossed from a realm that brushed against ours for only a moment. Their clothing, textiles no one could identify. Their language, unmapped, unrooted, unplaceable. The tunnel, behaving like a boundary, not a passage. Their fading green skin, a body slowly recalibrating to a world it was never meant to inhabit. And the boy's death, the price paid, by wanderers pulled too far from the rhythm of their native realm. This theory suggests that the children's arrival was not a mistake. It was an accident of alignment, a seam between worlds pulled open long enough for two lives to fall through. It does not comfort us. It does not reassure us, but it explains the details that refuse to fit anywhere else. Still, there is a third interpretation, a quieter one, a possibility that lingers at the edges of both history and myth. And then there is a quieter idea, a possibility whispered in old myths and forgotten stories, that the children were not anomalies, but reminders of something humanity once understood. Some scholars of folklore argue that the Woolpit children represent something deeper, a symbolic echo of an older human memory. A memory of thresholds, of crossings, of twilight realms that ancient cultures once believed in with absolute certainty. Maybe the story is literal. Maybe it's metaphor. Or maybe, and this is the uncomfortable possibility, it's both. A real event filtered through a worldview that recognized what we no longer see. In this interpretation, the children are not anomalies. They are reminders, remnants of a pattern older than folklore, older than Christianity, older than England itself. A pattern that appears whenever worlds overlap. And so we're left with a tension, one no one has ever been able to resolve. So which theory is true? The rational one, the supernatural one, or the one that sits between them, quietly insisting that myth and reality were never meant to be separate? Here's the truth. Every explanation leaves something behind, something unanswered, something that resists closure. Because the Woolpit children did not simply arrive. They disrupted. They challenged what medieval people believed was possible. And 900 years later, they still challenge us. Which leaves us with the question no historian has been able to silence. Were the green children outsiders to our world, or were we outsiders to theirs? For centuries, the story of the green children has lived in the margins of history, too strange to embrace, too persistent to forget. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Because every version of this mystery forces us to look not at them, but at us. At the limits of what we accept, at the borders of what we believe is possible, at the thin line between the world we know and the world we have stopped noticing. The girl of Woolpit grew up. She learned the language. She lived among the villagers. She became part of their world, but never fully. There was always a distance in her, something quiet, something watching, as if one part of her never left the twilight realm she described. And maybe that's the truth, hidden underneath everything. That there are places we once understood, realities we once sensed, paths between worlds that haven't fully closed, only thinned. Maybe Woolpit wasn't an anomaly. Maybe it was a reminder. A reminder that the Earth is older, stranger, and more layered than anything written in our textbooks. And if children can appear from a land where the sun never rises, what else lies hidden in the places we think we already understand? Because the next mystery isn't from the Middle Ages. It isn't found in a forgotten chronicle. It isn't whispered in an old monastery. It's happening right now in our world. In a place so vast, it creates its own weather, and so fragile. It may already be slipping away, a place people call the lungs of the planet. But what happens when those lungs begin to fail? In our next episode of The Hidden Realms of Earth, we travel into the depths of the Amazon, a realm of ancient rivers, living cathedrals of trees and warnings we can no longer ignore. Because some mysteries don't come from the past. They're unfolding right beneath our feet. Next episode, the Amazon, when the green lungs begin to fail.